very pleased to be joined by the CEO of one of the majors in that sector, Eirik Lie, who is the CEO of Kongsberg Defence, soon to be CEO of Kongsberg Group. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'd like to just get it's been such an active year, but I really want to have an understanding from you over the last sort of month or so, since the so-called Greenland moment here. There's been a lot of concern about European countries having sovereign capabilities. Have you seen that sort of translated into your order books? What kind of conversations have you had in the last few weeks? Have you felt a sort of shift in the tone?
Well, if I take one step back, I think it's important to realize that last year we focused on two major items. One is to win the Ukraine war, and the other is to rebuild or build up even more in Europe. And I think those two elements still are there. So we focused on that Ukraine needs to be helped, be supported to win the war. At the same time, Europe needs to continue the build-up of the capacity, and I think that is our focus.
And so the build-up in capacity, we talk a lot about the gaps in capacities, but also wanting to buy European, right? This is a very active discussion within Europe. Do you see that there are certain gaps within the market? Obviously there are, that you as Kongsberg could fill. What are those? What are those going to be in the next couple of months and years?
You know, our company is very important. It's very important for us to be both in Europe and also in the US and other places in the world. And we see that trend that there is some more European content that fits us very well. At the same time, we will leverage what we are doing in the US to build up more capacity there. So we are building up capacity and other technologies both in the US and also in Europe, and that fits our business model very well.
And then when we think about the kinds of hardware and the kinds of things that people are showing demand for, obviously you're involved in the JSMs and the sort of key missiles for the F-35s and things like that. Where is most of the demand coming in the last couple of months?
Well, I would say that we still see a high demand for air defense and our strike missile capacity. That will still be relevant for many years. At the same time, also in the counter-US, anti-drone systems, we get quite an important contract in Poland just a couple of weeks ago, which is paving the way forward for the counter-US segment. At the same time, you'll see also the space segment and also the underwater domain segment as the new two frontiers.
So I want to drill down into a few of those. So obviously you're market leaders in the sort of mid-range air defense systems, short-air defense system. We talk a lot about in Europe the sort of absence of being able to really match the Patriot system that the United States has for those long-range missiles. That is, of course, what Ukraine needs critically. Are you going to move into that space? Is there a timeline, do you think, that you'd be able to bring something to market that really competes at that level?
So currently we are working on expanding NASAMS. Yes, you're right. It's in the medium range, and we have the counter-US capacity. We want to expand NASAMS to be a full-spectrum air defense system. That means we need the longer-range capacity as well. So the technology in NASAMS and the architecture which is open is to embed and include other missiles to really be an anti-TBM system as well.
Mm-hmm. And then the other sort of one of the main issues, I think, that for Europeans and thinking about the sort of gaps that they have in their systems, there's a way in which the United States may have something close to a sort of monopoly on space. You have SpaceX and all of these sort of companies within the U.S. You're also involved in that space. What do you want your role to be in space?
I think we cover the whole full chain delivery of space activities. We are Europe's leading provider of satellite platforms on the small satellite segment. At the same time, we have KSAT, which is the world leader of taking down data from all satellites. And this combination is quite unique. So we see Kongsberg in a role taking a leading position for this new space segment, also for military purposes.
And I think that we've also learned that basically your defense is only as secure as your supply chains are. I spoke to the Rheinmetall CEO. He has a meeting every single week about rare earth metals to make sure they have the supply. I'd like you to sort of describe for us kind of where we are on these sort of memory chips, rare earths, how concerning that is to you, and sort of how much runway you have in terms of stockpile and how you think about that issue.
Yeah, this is very important for us, obviously, for all companies.
Yeah.
So we are concentrated on our supply chain to secure that we have the capacity, and we are building up what we call a buffer strategy, so that we have months so we can support our own production. Mm-hmm. And that is what we are discussing with all the different suppliers we have in our supply chain.
And are you, for example, Rheinmetall said that they have 12 months of supply. Is that the kind of window that you guys have, the runway you would have?
Yeah, we look at the year window, but it depends on what systems we are talking about.
And I'd like to also get, because you're also reshaping the business, splitting off the maritime unit, also then doubling down on defense. defense and civilian. Thinking more broadly about the structure of Kongsberg going forward and the possibility for M&A, what sort of sectors are you looking to make acquisitions in? Where would you like to see that sort of bouquet of sort of companies and capacities expanded?
Yeah. You're correct. So Kongsberg Group is de-merging Kongsberg Maritime as a new listed company, and then the existing Kongsberg Group will be a more focused defense company with civilian technology included. So that's our main aim with the new direction we take. At the same time, we see that, if you look at our order backlog, our priority number one is to deliver on our promises. Mm-hmm. At the same time, we want to continue the innovation path we are on. We need to accelerate what we are doing, and that also includes M&A more actively.
And then, so obviously you mentioned the backlog there. Something that's connected to that would be how much demand there is, the sort of margin. So I was looking back at your margins in the fourth quarter back in 2020. It was about 13%, now almost at 21%. Obviously very good news for you, but potentially concerning to some governments who are spending basically taxpayer money to buy all of this equipment. How do you sort of balance that, the need to sort of obviously continue to be profitable, to reinvest, but also be able to spend that money sort of responsibly and not have that sort of pressure from governments?
This is very important for us as well. We as a company, we like to do investments to build up capacity, to do R&D in order to support the customers around the world. And I think this is what we have done. We have invested in factories and build up capacity in the US. We are doing currently the same in Europe. And we are also building up factories in Australia, as an example. So I think this is what we will continue to be active in investments that will help also the governments around